so let me share my screen, and in the process, let me just mention that the Teams application, I believe, at least for most of us on the call, we've had some encounter with the Microsoft Teams application. And I think we would agree that it's a very useful, powerful tool, and also quite packed a tool. So at least for today's session, we are going to do our best to cover as much of the key areas in the various components of the Teams application. And then anything beyond that, we probably didn't touch on it. Of course, as your questions flow in, if there's any other aspect that we need to delve deep into, we will do that. And also, if there are any things beyond this webinar, you can always reach out to us and we would assist you with that. Okay, so we are going to start the Teams application. So one of the main things Teams is, I think my boss already mentioned it. So the Teams application, we are focusing on being able to communicate effectively and being also able to collaborate with your team members. So the Teams application is more or less like a combination of the WhatsApp chat platform where you can easily chat with your colleagues within the corporate environment, and also schedule your meetings, your video, audio meetings, share your documents, all those stuff. You can do them from within the Teams application. Now, I'm just going to quickly brush over the things that we are seeing over here, and then we will delve into some of the key components of the application. So we'll see on the screen that we have our left navigation bar here, which has some items on the screen available to us. So the first we are seeing is this activity area, which is more or less our area to be able to see any notifications or any mentions whatsoever that we've had within the Teams application. So any notifications, you can easily come here, you would see them and can click them to have access to them. Now, for now, because I haven't used this account much, this side is blank. There is also one aspect that you would see here that says on read only. So at any point in time, you are a heavy user of the app, you can see this option here to leave your notifications to only the unread ones, so that you don't have a very long list of notifications within your activity area. In any case, your notifications are always arranged in terms of the most current one first. However, just so you don't have a crowded area, you can turn this on read only option on. So it limits it to just the notifications you haven't attended to. This chat area is also one of the main components of the Microsoft Teams application. And so we will be looking at this also in a bit more detail. So this is where you can come to start any one-on-one chats, group chats, which we'll be talking about as well. And then we have the teams. So yes, the naming is a bit interesting here. So we have the entire application called Microsoft Teams, and there happens to be a component within the Teams app also called Teams. So this area is more for the more persistent or permanent groupings you have within your organizations, like departments, that you need those kind of teams for. Then we have the calendar meetings for viewing yours and join as well. And then we have this call area for any calls that come in, missed calls. You can see those here as well. There are also opportunities for you to be able to have apps within and access them within the Microsoft Teams application. So you see here, for instance, I have my OneDrive over here so that I don't need to leave the Teams application and open another app to access my OneDrive. So in the same way, you can easily add any other apps that you want to over here, and then you can access them from within the Microsoft Teams application. Now, moving on from the navigation bar we see here, we can see this search bar at the top here, which enables us to search for our fellow our fellow staff members within the organization to be able to search for any files, to search for any teams or group chats that we are looking for. So at any point in time, if you even need to start a new chat with someone in your organization, you can easily come here and search for them and then find that person. If you happen to have also shared a file with a colleague, you don't particularly remember what file, who you shared that file with, you can easily just search for those files within the search bar, and then you should be able to find those files easily. Okay, so that's the search bar that we have here. We would also see there are some two small arrows here next to the search bar. So this is more or less to enable us to just go back and visit previous places or spaces that we have opened in the course of the instance that we have here. So for instance, you can see that I can just go back and then I open up my OneDrive again, or I can just keep going. So I can just go back and it just takes me back to all the previous pages that I've visited, okay, without having to necessarily come here and navigate to them again. And then towards the far right corner, we see a few aspects over here as well. So the settings, these three dots that we see at the top here, leads us to the settings area, which if there is enough time, I'll touch on a few things over there. And then we can also see that we have our account name over here. Okay, so this is our account manager. From here, we can sign out of the app if need be. Okay, if there is any status we need to adjust, we can do that from here as well. So if you've gotten up from your desk and you need to just adjust any of these, you can do that as well. But usually by default, Teams adjust these settings for you based on how active you've been on the app within within a time frame. So if I've been chatting or I've opened it up and sent a lot of message, it will usually stay at available. If I happen to have been dormant on the app for a period of time, then it would switch automatically to this status you are seeing here and indicate that I'm not seated at the moment, possibly, or I'm not active yet. So that is, you know that when you send me a message, I may not necessarily respond immediately like you would want me to. And also, the moment you join a meeting, it automatically switches to this red color as well, just to prompt and make people aware that you are busy. Now, another feature that has been introduced over the course of time is the ability to be able to add other accounts. So I think at first, if there was any number of accounts you had, and let me stress that as it stands now, this feature is working for only work or school accounts, that's corporate accounts. It's yet to be expanded to any personal Microsoft accounts that you have. So you can see, for instance, that I'm signed into this trading account. I also have the opportunity here to switch to my, you can add as many accounts as you want to over here. And then you can easily switch between them to access them as well. And the moment you do that, you would see that if there are any notifications you receive in any of the other accounts, you would have that notification icon over here. So this is just a quick navigation of the items we see here. And now we'll just delve straight into starting a chat and then move into the group chats and other aspects. So as I mentioned, we can easily start a chat just by searching for the person we want to have the chat with. So the moment I type that for anybody within my organization, I can just type the person's name and then it just suggests to me who it is that I want to chat with. Now, for external people outside of your organization, you would need to enter the full email address of that individual. And then it would request to search for that person externally. Okay. Okay, so this is just an area that you can open up to be able to have any conversations. Of course, beyond using the search bar, which is most of the time the easiest, just search for the person and then you have that area to chat with them. You also have this new chat icon here. So you come to your chat area, you'd see those icons on your top right corner. You'd see the new chat icon. I understand for those of us using Apple and Co, that's a very common icon that we see over there. So you have that new chat icon and you can easily enter the name of the person you want to chat with, and then you start the chat with them. Okay, so you just select the person's name and then you can enter. Okay, I actually started a group chat here. Let me not jump ahead of myself. Okay, so this starts a chat, a one-on-one chat with any individual within your organization. Okay, now there are a few things at the bottom here. I mean, there are quite a number of things over here within our chat area. I believe most of us may have had a chance to encounter or use some of them. I will just touch on just one or two of them and then we'll move on from there. So the first thing here we are seeing is the format area. So if there's any message that we have typed in there that we need to format, we can easily do that from here just by clicking this format option. And then we see this exclamation mark symbol here for us to be able to append any sort of priority level to the message that we are sending out. So if it's a message that needs urgent attention of the recipient, I would need to just indicate that when I send or type the message. Okay, so let me try with this one. And then once I do that, what it's going to do is it's going to send some notifications to that person until they open up and you respond to my message. So you note that there are three options here. So usually by default, it's set to standard. You can set a message as important, in which case it would only be marked as important to the individual and they can see that they need to treat this with some sort of importance. Now, if you see the urgent aspect here, you would note that it says that it will notify the recipient every 2 minutes for 20 minutes. So please, as much as possible, you make sure that this is only being used when the message you are sending really requires that urgent attention. Otherwise, in the span of 20 minutes, until that person opens up that message, they will be receiving about 10 notifications that there's a message that they need to attend to. There's also the aspect here of attaching files. And then that as well, you can attach from the device, or if there is any file that you've saved within your OneDrive, you can attach that as well. There are a few other things, I'll touch on them when we do the group chat, so you just hold on briefly for me. So this is the main chat area, like I said. So this is where you can have all the chats that you need to with that person. You also see the option here at the top, which says files. So if there are any documents that I share with Mr. Tete within our chat area, they would all be listed here so that it makes it easy to access them. Let me see. I think I have an instance where I have done that so that I just show that. So you can see here in this chat with myself, I have shared a document, and so you can see that that's listed there. This way you don't need to go scrolling through your chats to find any old documents that you have shared. So you either have the option to come to the chat with the person and just find the document here, or you can also easily use the search bar option at the top. Okay, so just to give a quick readout, so far we have just looked at navigating the Microsoft Teams application. So the various items we have on the navigation bar, we've looked at the search bar and the fact that you can use that to search for individuals, you can use it to search for files, you can even use it to search for messages that you have sent previously, in which case you probably don't remember who you sent it to. We also saw the purpose of these small arrows that we have here, just to be able to go back, like we have in our browsers, to just be able to go back to previous pages we have visited. We have also seen here that at the account manager area, you can add other work or school accounts, so that you can easily switch between them if need be. So let's say for those of us who are admins in our organization, for instance, maybe there's an admin account you need to be able to communicate with people on, and your own personal account as well within the organization. You can easily add those accounts here, so you can switch between them if need be. And then we have also started looking at the chat area. First, we have just looked at being able to start a one-on-one chat. Like I mentioned, you can easily search for that individual from the search bar here. For people within your organization, you just need to type in that individual's name, and then you can easily have that conversation with them. For people outside of your organization, you will need to enter their full email address. If that's the first time, then you can have access to have a conversation with them. We have also looked at this chat area here and seen a few of the buttons we have at the bottom here, namely formatting your text, adding some priority level to the message you are sending, and then we've also seen the option here to be able to attach files. Okay, so moving on from this chat area, now there is a feature that Microsoft introduced as well that is known as the group chat. Okay, so now initially, before this updated feature, whenever you had to work in a group, or in a number of people had to do any collaboration on anything, you would usually go and create a team, which we'll touch on briefly as well shortly. Now, what was happening with the team is that anytime a team is created, there are so many extra things that is being done in the background. So if, let's say, the group chat we needed to have, or the group that we are working with, is just for a period of time, let's say for some 2 weeks, we just needed to brainstorm on something our boss asked us to brainstorm on, then we don't need to go through the process of creating a whole team, in which case it will be creating all those extra things like a SharePoint site and all that in the background. Okay, in that case, for some of those temporary ad hoc teams, you can just use what is known as the group chat. Okay, so now how do we create this group chat? Now, in this particular case, there are two things to consider here. I may have been having a conversation with Irabna about some particular activities we needed to tackle. And then in the course of the conversation, we realized that we probably need to invite Obed or Mr. Tete or Nora into the conversation because they have more info about what we are looking for. So right from this area where I'm having a chat with Irabna, you would see on our far right corner that you can see an option here that says it has like two human beings and a plus symbol. It says here, add people. So when you click the add people option here, you see the option to add or enter the names of other individuals. So let me search for let me maybe add Nora. Let me add Obed. Okay, so these are the people I want to just create this group with so that we can easily brainstorm on that particular topic our boss has given us to tackle. So I just add the names. So the moment you just add, you see the cursor, you just start typing the person's name, and then it would suggest those in the organization with that letter or name for you. And then I click create. So what I've done here is I've created a group chat consisting of myself, Irabna, Edmond, Nora, and all that, so that we can have that quick discussion that we need to have without necessarily having to create a whole team, or that's the team's option here for it. So over here, Just like we also have the icons here to be able to format the message and all that. It's the same as you saw for the one-on-one chats that we have. You would notice that next to the names of the people, okay, by default, when I create it, it gives that particular group name as the people it has in the group. But just for ease of, just to make it easy to find it, I want to name it appropriately. So I can just click on this pencil icon I'm seeing next to the name, and then I would just type in the name of the maybe the subject area or subject matter that we need to be discussing. So just for the purpose of this, and because we are in the masterclass training, I will just use the masterclass training option here, and then I save it. This way, it makes it very easy for all of us to be able to identify that this is that group that we are using for this discussion. Now, one thing to note is that the group chats, unlike the teams we'll look at shortly, is more or less open to all, in that there is no one administrator of the team who is managing who is being added and when, or who is being taken out. So at any point in time, any of us who are members of the group chat can add members to that group chat, or we can take people out of it. So you would notice that in the same way that I added the participants, you see the icon here with the people. I can easily click on any person that I need to get out of the group, and then they will be taken out of it. So let's say in the discussions we are having at a point, we no longer need, let me see, Obed has answered the questions we need him to answer, so we can easily take Obed out of that. Okay, and that reduces that aspect. If we need to add anyone else, go to the same place, and then you look at the add people. Okay, now one of the things I wanted to draw our attention to as part of the icons we are seeing at the bottom here, we would notice that there is one icon here that says schedule a meeting, and there is that plus, a calendar, and then the plus symbol here. Now, if at any point in time I need to schedule a meeting with these specific group members that I have here, I don't need to go through the process of, which we'll see, going to the main and have to enter everyone's name one by one. From this group chat area, when I click this schedule a meeting icon, what it does is it automatically picks everybody in this group chat and adds them as participants to the meeting straight away for me. Then if I need to add anyone else, I can add them from here. So I don't need to go from scratch of now adding every single person as a participant of that particular meeting. Okay. So that's one thing I wanted to draw attention to as well in this group chat area. Okay. So now let me just send in a message into the group, because once I do that, everybody within that group should receive the message and will be able to attend to it. Now, once I send a message into the group, there are a few things I want to point out as well. The first of them, when you hover on the message, you can see the edit option here. So if you need to adjust anything that you've actually sent out, you can easily do that. Okay. You can easily do that. And then you just click the tick, and then it just indicates or adjusts the message that you have sent out. Then if you also happen to want to respond to a particular message, okay, so some of these features I am pointing out are even more, it's may even more be necessary, let's say in the group chats and all that. It, of course, in your one-on-one chats, it's also important. But let's say in a case where you have a group and there are so many people sending in messages that need to find out about something, then you can easily respond to specific messages. So with this, for instance, I see Mr. Tete's hello here. I want to respond to him in particular. I can just hover on that message. I can just come here. I see the reply option, and then it will just put his message in the text box for me, and then I would be able to direct my message to him specifically, so that we don't have a case where you have long list of messages and you respond and we don't even know which message exactly you are responding to. So this is a one-on-one group chat area where we can easily create those ad hoc groupings that we need to have some conversations with. So we've looked at the individual chats, at least we've seen the group chats now, being able to create a group chat, editing the name of the group chat. We've also seen that the group chat is more or less free for all, so that we can easily add any, we can all add people, we can all remove people from the group chat as well. And then we've also seen how to just schedule a meeting from this group chat area so that it automatically adds all the participants of that group chat to the meeting invite that we are creating. Now, one last thing I just want to touch on before I switch into the Teams area is that when you see this area to view and add participants, there's also the option here to add more people, like I mentioned earlier. Now, when you click add people, you would see that it's indicating here if you want to include all the chat history that you have had so far. So we started a conversation. We need to bring in an extra person. We want to share all the chat history, all the chats we've done throughout the time with the person, or do we only want to include chats for some specific number of days? So maybe just the conversation we've had in the 2 days, that's what we want this new person to see. Or we don't even want to include any chat history at all. So you have those options whenever you are adding a new member to a group chat. Remember, I said the group chat is just for those ad hoc or quick groupings you need to do, unlike the more permanent groupings you have, like your department. Okay, so that is for. Okay, so moving on from the group chat, we come to Teams. So like I mentioned, the Teams is for more permanent grouping. So you have something like your department, you can create that as a team within the system instead. I know for certain organizations, creation of the team is probably restricted to just admins or department heads or any other designated people. If in your case, it's also opened to everyone, that's also okay. So if you can see from the top here, you see the teams option. Until recently, there just used to be a create or join option at the bottom here where you could just click and then create a team. Now they've upgraded the app, and so you'll see this plus icon on at the top right corner here. When you click that, you see the option to either create or join a team. Now, when you click create a team, you have the options here to either also create from a template, whether you want to create from another existing team or you want to create from a group. So now what is happening here is, so if you have instances where you need to create a team, let's say for managing some project, that's something that's going to take, let's say a project that you intend to happen for like a year or more, and you have the manage a project option here. What that is going to do is it's going to create the team with some pre-created things for you, okay, so that you don't need to create all those things from scratch. So just give me a moment, or maybe I'll just move somewhere else. My internet has decided to start acting up on me at this point. So let me close this since it's not loading. I'll just come back to it at some point. If we are just creating one from scratch, So we would just click the from scratch option, and then we see here the option to create it as a private team or a public team. This is also another aspect you need to take note of whenever you are creating a team. Now, when you create a team as a private team, then anybody at all within the organization who wants to join would need to request permission to join. If even someone in the team already decides to try to add a new person to it, that person will still have to wait and get permission to be part of the team. So for, let's say, your board of directors have a team, let's say department heads, usually it would be advisable to have these as private. On the other hand, if you make any team you are creating public, then anyone at all within the organization find that team. So that is one thing to note here. So I can just create a private team, and then I just enter the name of my team. Okay, so I go through, I enter the name of the team. Please pardon me for a lack of more creative naming. And then I click create. And then it creates that new team for me. If I want to add members here, I can do that. If not, I can always skip that and then come back to it later. So this is the team I have created. By default, it will create what is known as a general channel. So that brings me to another keyword within the Microsoft Teams application, that is channel. Now, channels are just basically subgroups within a team. So a typical example would be for, let's say, software department created as the main team. By default, there will be this general channel where every single member of the software team has access to. Beyond that, if I need to create a subgroup, let's say for the development unit, for the infrastructure unit, any other, did I just say infrastructure for software? But yes, for any other units within the software team, you can easily add them over here. So for that, I can just come to, you see some three dots next to the team's name. You can click that, and then you see the option to add a channel. So you can add the name of the channel. So we have unit 1. Just like we had with the team, you can also indicate if everyone in the team you have created should have access to it, or if you want people in the organization or outside to have access, or you want it private, in which case it's only specific people who need to have access to it. So for, let's say, our software department, for instance, we can have a private team, in which case we have only unit heads within that subgroup, so that they can have their top management conversations, and then the rest of us will just be part of the other subgroups in there. Again, you can skip this for now if you want to add. Okay, I haven't added any names there, but you want to skip and then you want to add any names later, you can do that. Still on these three dots option here, you see the option to add a member. So when you are creating the team, you can have the add member option here. Okay, so that's the first part, was just adding members from the area you created the team. Or you can just come, once you've created the team, you come and add member, and then you can type the name of the people you want to add to the team. Okay, so let me add, let's say, Carl as well. And then maybe let me just add my boss to this team. Okay, so you notice that in adding the teams, you see some option here that says member. Okay, if you need to make, so in WhatsApp, we have the normal or common floor members, and we have the admins. That's what it's called there. In Microsoft Teams, we have members and we have owners. So the owners are more or less the administrators of the team. And if you remember, I mentioned that in group chats, it's free for all, which means that everybody at all is the admin. We are all admins, we are all members. In the teams, this is more controlled. So specific people are administrators, and then you can have everyone else as a member so that activities in there are more controlled. So I'm making Obed an owner, and then I can just add him to, or add them to the team that I have created. Okay, so that is to note for the team. Again, the aspects about the chat area and all that are same or similar for you had with the group chats, for the one-on-one chats. It's the same idea that is running through these areas as well. Okay. Now, just before I switch out of the teams area, let me just touch on this managing a team aspect. So when you come to any team, you can click the three dots once again. You come to manage team. And then over here, we can see all the members and owners of the team just listed here for me. You also see that there's another option here to be able to add members to the team. So even with adding members to the team, there are about 3 different ways that you can go about that. If any member that I have here, I want to just switch their roles, I can easily do that from here as well. I would ask if one of the members, probably Carl, or maybe, I don't know, if they can try and add someone else just so I can show that feature of pending request. Or maybe Obed, let me switch you from pending, so I can show the pending request aspect, like I mentioned, for private groups that are created. So whilst Obed tries to add someone, I will just switch into another area, and then we'll come back and then we'll see that pending request option so far. So yes, Teams, like I mentioned earlier, is quite packed. So pardon me, is like there's a lot of things going on, but at least it's just so that you have a fair idea of key areas of the application. And then if you have any further questions or anything you want, you can always reach out to us and we would assist you. So please, you would notice here that the people I added to the group initially, I've also tried to add other members to the team. So this is one of the controlled features I mentioned. So I can see here who is requesting to add those people. And then I see the option here to accept or to deny those requests. So if I deem it fit that Nora be part of this team as an admin, so please note that all the owners of the group would have the opportunity to do this. So then I can choose to accept or deny the people in here. So for this, let's say I'm accepting all of them so that they can be part of the team that I have created. Okay. So at least so far, we have looked at creating the team, and at least I've tried to relate the team or some differences between the team and then the group chat. So at least we have an idea of it and know when best to use each of those components. You also even notice that my activity area here is also even showing me some things that Carl and Obed tried to add someone to the team I created. Okay. So the last thing I'm just going to touch on is the calendar area. So the calendar area, like I mentioned, is where you can create or schedule your various meetings. Okay, so now when you come here, you can see your basic your meeting calendar. Please note that the calendar you are seeing, at least for those of us on Microsoft 365, the calendar you see here is the same thing you are seeing within your Outlook application. So any meetings you have on there on Outlook also are showing here, and anything you have here also shows within the calendar you have in your Outlook. Now, to create a new meeting, I can just click on the new meeting option that I have at the top here. And then that opens up a pop-up that you can see on your screen here. And like I mentioned, this time the add required attendees area is blank, unlike we saw in the group chat. So here I can add the name, so add the title, and then I can add the required attendees. So let me just try and add one person just for. And then we see an option here to enter the time, the date, and then the time for the meeting. So let's say it's a meeting I want to happen from 2 p.m. to about 2:30 p.m. And then I see this option at the bottom here that says does not repeat. So this is for when I need to create a recurring meeting. So if we need to have a departmental meeting that's supposed to happen every month, I can just come here and set that recurrence, okay, so that I know that it's supposed to repeat every month. And then until when I need to indicate that so that it doesn't just stay on people's calendars perpetually. Okay, and then I see the option here. Now, I mentioned channels briefly. I mentioned channels when we did the teams. So at least if you want to direct this particular meeting to any specific channel, then you can actually, you have the option to select that channel. It will drop that invite within the channel. And of course, because the platform is Teams and it's meant for online meetings, by default, I have my online meeting option here checked. I think we are running out of time. So let me just see if there is anything else I need to just point out here. So one key thing I also want to touch on, the option here, the settings or options under a particular meeting. So you notice that at least for most of you trying to enter this call, you had to wait and be accepted into the meeting. So this is the option over here. So who can bypass the lobby? So if you want everyone to just enter by default, the moment they click the link, they are just entering, then you make sure that you come and select everyone. But if you want only people in your organization to have that privilege, then you indicate that option as well. If you want the meeting to just start recording, the moment you started, you can click the record automatically option here. There are some more options here as well. If you just click the more options here, in which case you will not, let's say one key thing in the particular meeting, you don't want attendees to just be able to turn on their mics. You can turn that off, and then also turn, let's say, the allow camera off, so that it restricts the attendees from being able to turn that on. Now, the moment you are done with the meeting, you can just click send, and then that should send the meeting invite out. So I think at this point, I will just wrap up here, and then hopefully maybe any questions that you have, if it needs to drive any deep delve into any other aspect,